Happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com. This is Disconnect to Connect, one word conversations. The wonderful thing about today is I get to have another conversation as I do, but I get to um, inter- introduce you to someone that I just met, and I really we connected at what I say a heart level. Then now we're going to, I guess, allow our head or our minds to catch up with each other and see what's on our mind and what's on our heart, so we can have this conversation. And this conversation that we're going to have today is going to be on everything, and too often it's like, really, everything? We're gonna have a conversation about everything, right? And it's like sometimes within our showing up in life and kind of living, we get overwhelmed by everything. But I think this conversation will kind of help us. I guess if my intention for this conversation is to kind of really look at everything as the African proverb that says, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? So we can have a mind for everything. But there is an opportunity for us to know or to understand something. So, with that in mind, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I'm going to invite my guests up and we're going to have a conversation. Good morning.
Good morning, William. How are you?
I am doing great. So, this is the time where I ask my guests and my new friend to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable to them.
Well, my name is Rashaida. I go by Shy. A lot of people, sometimes get my name wrong. So I just tell them Shy because I'm not a shy person, but they may kind of get that little
Right.
joke of shy, but not shy.
Right.
Um, I I love media. I love pop culture. I love sports, entertainment. I love everything that has to do with media. I went to UNC Charlotte and graduated with a degree in communications. And it is my intention to use my digital platform to inspire and to impact and to um, create a change worldwide, and just starting with the people around me and expanding that energy.
Wow. Now that's, I guess, beautiful. Sometimes I self edit myself, because it's like, beautiful, really? Is that what you want to say? It's like, yeah, that's what I want to say, right? It's all, I mean, too often I believe that we trip ourselves up because of the bigness of our desires and the bigness of our heart. And it's like, really? The world? How about just Charlotte? How about just, how about just you, right? But and it's trying to reduce ourselves down to something less than. And so the worldwide impact is what it's all about. So, what that in mind, how does the word everything land for you?
Well, I guess I'm a very technical person. I love words. And so, of course, I looked up the definition of everything. And the three that they came up with, the first was all that exists, the second was all that is important. And then the third was all sorts of other things
Right.
used to indicate related but unspecific events, facts, and in unspecified conditions. So for me, when I think of everything just in my life right now, it feels like everything. It
Right.
feels like if I was to visually see everything, it feels like the weight of the world on me and everything that is encompassing my environment, my reality, and everything that I'm thinking, everything that I'm feeling, everything that I'm doing.
Hmm.
Everything feels like it touches on literally the activities that I do throughout the day that I don't even think about.
Right.
like everything.
Right.
That is everything.
Right. That is everything. It's kind of funny when I was promoting the show yesterday, and I usually I find a quote or I find something that someone said about the word, and so I'm looking, I go to Professor Google, right, and just kind of see what other people say. And then what kept on going through my head was, Lauren Hill's song "Everything Is Everything." And I says, "Okay, you know what? We're just gonna share that. That's
I
that's what it
love
is. It's like
that.
everything is everything, and that's what we're gonna talk about, right? And for me, it's like you were saying. It is just it's sometimes it feels like everything is on me, but everything is available to me.
Yes.
There's a possibility for things. There is,
Hmm.
and so I, in my choices, will decide what part of everything that is going to have my attention or my intentions. But in order for me to set my intentions, I have to acknowledge everything. You know, and
Yes.
it's just kind of because sometimes there's a book that I've read and I hear from mentors and everything about just worry about one thing, one thing and do that, and it's like no, I get it, but I don't get it
Right.
because there is so much more that is calling me, that is asking for my attention, that I'm desiring to have at least some understanding of. So how do you manage the bigness of everything?
Oh gosh, I was honestly going to be very transparent and tell you that everything seems to be my complex. Even with my learning and my desire to know things, I like to know a little bit about everything.
Hmm.
I think that there are very few subjects, unless I don't know, unless I've had to study it school wise or for my job, that I get as much depth as I do breadth, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. Like
Yep, got it.
I like to know a little bit about everything so that I feel educated and
Right.
informed holistically.
Right. Got it.
So I guess for me, balancing everything is hard. It's
Right.
difficult because for me, I like to kind of have my hands in multiple pots and I like to see what's going on over here and over there. I'm just literally that type of brain that likes to, I'm very curious, you know? And
Right.
so I guess I assuage that by learning something. Like
Right.
I don't know, like you said, the metaphor of the elephant, one bite at a time. I literally take a little bite from here, a little bite from there, kind of
Right.
like a buffet.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of elephants around you, right?
Right.
So no, I totally get that, and I think most of the times for me, what people will think because I want to understand, a little bit of everything, trips me up more than my desire to know about a little bit of everything. And I think that's what my conversation around labels and living beyond our labels is. I believe that our labels restrict us because when we are like one thing, when I'll just use my father label since Father's Day is coming up soon. So
Yeah.
when I would show up for my kids just as dad or father, they didn't have access to any other part of me. There it was just dad said this, and this is what you're going to do. And it caused a level of separation between us. And so it caused a level of them not communicating with me on, you know, um, a consistent basis because they knew what dad was going to say. So they're like, we'll just deal with the consequences later, right? So we don't need to talk to them about it. But that's how we go through our life, I believe, is that because we only know one thing, we only see one thing, and then it is that thing is in our face, and then we have to fix it, and then we have to honor it, and we got to be all that, and then all the things around us, all the other things around us that don't have our attention and don't have our focus, and we have no awareness of, is then starts bumping in on us, and it's like, what the hell, right? It's just like, where did this come from? So the more that we are able to look up and look out to everything and to understand our awareness, the more that we can engage and be a part of everything and make a difference in everything.
I definitely would agree with the perspective of how you felt there was a bit of a barrier that was created when you only gave your kids the father side of you. I think that when I was growing up and just trying to understand the shift in the relationship with my parents from like that adolescence of like, I see you and I believe everything you say and everything that you do, to kind of just seeing my parents for humans too, and then
Right.
just trying to understand their everything that made them who they are and
Right.
how they have, I guess, thought that it was best to separate those things from their role as a parent. But I feel like as I started to get to know my parents as more than just the label of mom and dad, I started to just, I don't know, connect with them in a way that was different than just I'm your daughter and you're my mom and dad. I feel like
Right.
I felt more open to communicate about different things that, of course, our logical mind understands that our parents went through at a particular age. But in that
Right.
moment, it's like, you don't understand.
Right. Right.
But you just have this emotional plight of like you just don't get it, as if
Right.
they weren't your age before. But I really do believe that when I was able to have those real conversations with my parents when they were transparent about their experiences in life, it helped me to connect with them in a different way. Do you feel like you were able to do that with your kids? Transitioning from that label of just dad or that persona, or.
Yeah, well, I will say it. It happened because now they're my adult children, right? So
Right.
it's kind of easier now because they have that adult label, so it's like,
Yeah.
okay, okay, so how can I relate to them? So within this conversation, I will say, hey, this is what dad says, this is what I'm saying. So there's almost kind of two conversations within that, because there are still these moments that it's like, okay, I'm still dad, I need to kind of say dad stuff, right? Type of thing. And I think that's how we miss things. That's how things get away from us. That's how possibilities get, are become elusive, and opportunities, because we kind of turn into this role. And I think that, taking on the label of being a lover of everything, or wanting to understand everything, and I'm trying to figure out a name for that. I don't know. I've heard something. I'm going to say it wrong, but it's like some opportunities. I don't know, something. It'll come to me later.
Yeah.
So that's why I love doing this live, because sometimes you see how my brain works and doesn't work in real time, right?
Right.
But there is a point where sometimes you can't connect to. I'll speak for myself. I can't connect to something more deeply because I have this everything, I look at everything label. And
That's the
so,
complex.
right, and it's like, okay, I need to be a little more serious about this. I need to go a little deeper than just having the surface level of understanding of this. But then the more I go down that level, it's like, dude, there's a lot of stuff happening around you, you need to be aware of, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, okay, you just get, then you kind of stop that, and then I move on to some other things, and then there is this like regret. Do you think your I don't know, your connections, the people that you're connected to, can help with that everything? So it's not something that you have to evaluate, really dig deep for yourself, but more that you're connected to your crew, your tribe, the more that you're able to get a larger view of the world, and kind of put things in perspective.
I think that that is genuinely a part of the purpose why I want to impact other people, because I
Hmm.
feel that when you kind of put on the lens of another human being's perspective for a moment, you just see and maybe feel things differently that you may have felt a certain way about before. You may have been rigid in your beliefs or your just opinion or thought process about something, and someone's experience in life or their perspective can bring a shift in you that you may not have felt otherwise. And I think
Right.
that's why those connections are so important. Like, and I think that that's why as human beings we have an innate desire to want to be connected to others in a very genuine, sincere way. It
Right.
just may be um, exploited through
Right.
different avenues, which can make things complicated. But I think that at the core of us, we just want to be accepted and understood. And
Right.
I think that by us making that connection with someone else and getting that validation and reassurance of
Hmm.
that desire to want to understand and be understood, I think that that creates a stronger bond with the people around you. And I think that's how you make your impact, because there's a resonance there with other people.
Got it. Do you believe that your curiosity drives that, or your desire to connect drives your everything mindset?
I think a little bit of both. I think my curiosity to know
Hmm. Got it.
is what drives me. I'm a people watcher.
Okay.
I'm constantly watching people, whether I'm driving, whether I'm out eating, or if I'm just in a public setting where other people are around me, or even sometimes at my house. If I see
Right.
people walking, I'm like, I wonder what their life was like today, or if they have an expression on their face, or if they're experiencing some emotion of like happiness, even. I'm like,
Right.
I wonder what impacted them in a certain way, like, because
Right.
I'm always listening, I'm always seeing. It's just weird, like I feel like I'm more aware than what I would prefer to be sometimes,
Right.
like
Got it.
hearing and seeing things.
Right.
So yeah, I think that just that in itself, and just wanting to understand how people's experiences again have made them who they are as a whole, I think that that's important to me, because I feel like I'm on that journey myself of understanding how the things that I've experienced from childhood to adulthood, how they have impacted me in good ways and not so positive ways, and how
Right.
I can evolve as that person without losing self.
Right. No, I totally get that. And the level of awareness that we have or don't have and what we decide to do with that awareness will dictate how things show up or don't show up in our lives.
Right.
Too often, like you were saying, it's the good and bad part about being aware. Because you're not. It's like crap. I'm aware of this. It's like
Right.
not right. Right. It's
Right.
like
No, that's serious, because then it's like once you become aware, you can't feign ignorance anymore. And
right.
it brings a different kind of accountability to the game.
Right.
And it's like once you're aware, it's like, dang it, I can't function out of that lower energy anymore, because I know better.
Right.
And you know the saying of when you know better, you do better. And
Right.
so then it causes you to rise to the challenge, or do you sit complacent and you never grow?
Right. And I think too often people they act as if they don't know, so they don't have to do better. It's like you can look at them. It's like, yeah, they know.
Oh,
Right?
absolutely, absolutely. The one that was like, I didn't, like, I mean, there's that genuine, like, they want to play. I mean, through and through, want to stick to the script of, I did
Right.
not know. Like that
Right.
coworker that knows that lunch was not theirs, and it was like, oh, it was there, and
Did
then
you bring it? Right.
that's the real question.
Right. It's like, I said during this time, a couple years ago, without going in too much into politics, but a few years ago, after election, what I felt that I was aware of, that people were more upset that they were awaken to crazy, versus what they're going to do now that they're awake, you
Right.
know? And it's like, it's like people were mad that you woke them up because they just wanted to live a life of being asleep and just walking around and just kind of accepting life as it is. And I think in this moment that we are in, there's a lot of things that people are aware of. Now we can't go back, and
Hmm.
that the people that will have that desire to go back to normal or whatever they want are to a reality that they have tolerated for so long. That will be an indication of how serious they are, how really engaged with making this society or this country better or more equitable or more just for everyone. And it's like, I try to say with no judgment, but there's a reality with that. People, the reason why certain things lasted so long in our society and still going on in our society, but it's just we're just now at an awareness stage, in my opinion, is because people were benefiting from it. People knew, that other people were suffering from their benefit, but it's like, okay, if I make mention of their suffering, then I may lose benefit. So I rather keep my benefit. People call it privilege, right? But so I can reduce the level of suffering, or I can give lip service to their suffering, but I'm not going to relieve the suffering because then my benefit goes away. And so then you can't deal with everything. You can't deal with what's happening for everyone, because of the benefits of what I have a reality to, or what my awareness is. And I think too often when people throw their hands up and say, well, it's too much, it's too hard, it's overwhelming. Yeah, it is. And what we're going to do. And I think that's why I appreciate someone like yourself, and I'm the same, that our desire to know as much as we can, a little bit of everything, so we can be available in every situation, in every opportunity. And so we are engaged in our life on a level that a lot of people in some cases have not been, or chose
Absolutely.
not to.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with you just with how the climate of the the tensions rising that have
Hmm.
always been, it's just been underlying and always present in this country. And I feel like you said, as this awareness and this sense of being awakened has brought the ugly to people's faces.
Right.
It's that discomfort
Right.
that causes this uprising of, well, no, we don't need to change things because,
Right.
like you said, there's this benefit or there's this privilege that will be lost if you consider the equity of others that are not able to enjoy those same benefits or
Right.
privileges.
Right.
And I think that what's important now is for people to recognize and understand that, yes, we were in a very dark place, but we have to move forward. We are still in that dark place because people don't want to move forward. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Hmm.
so for me, it becomes a rigmarole conversation with those that feel like to say that Black Lives Matter is an assault to all lives mattering, but don't recognize that if all lives mattered, we wouldn't be here.
Right.
It
Absolutely.
makes for a constant battle of trying to get a point across that honestly I feel will never be heard.
Right.
But I have hope for our allies who are, in the streets, that are in city hall, that are from local to federal level, acknowledging and supporting the fact that something has to change in our
Right.
society and that we cannot stay the same in
Right.
order for us to grow, in order for us to just, I don't know, experience something different and to allow people to live just as human beings instead of judging them by the color of their skin. I
Right.
mean, we all have biases. That's real. But
Right.
I believe that because on the outside, that's what we see. It's like as human beings, it's like what you see is what you analyze and what you assume and how you form an opinion.
Right.
And so I feel that as we take away those doctrines of sorts that have kind of been laced in our history and in our teachings and understandings about the people around us, I think that that will make a greater impact. I feel
Right.
like education is important and awareness is important. Going back to what you said about how people get upset that they've been made aware. I
Right.
feel like that is triggered by, again, that discomfort.
Mm.
Because when you are unaware or you choose to be unaware without anyone really calling you on that lack of
Right.
desire to be aware,
Right.
you're allowed to remain comfortable.
Right.
Like you said, there's just that passive
Right.
benefit that lingers there that no one wants to address. But just like everybody said, we've done better since Jim Crow.
Right.
We've done better.
Right.
But at the same time, you have people who have been found to be lynched within the last few days after they just passed a federal bill to make lynching illegal, but there are people still fighting against that bill.
Right.
So
Yeah.
sorry to be
Yeah.
political, but
No, no. Look,
it's
it's a part of everything, right? It's a part,
right,
and right,
absolutely.
and the more that we acknowledge everything, there's, you know, there are people that say, well, this is not America, and we need to live up to the ideas of it. It's like the more that we acknowledge that it is, the more that we can make a difference, the more that we can make a change. When people keep saying this is not us, they're
Right.
denying the reality of what we are or what we allowed. And I think the more that we accept the reality of there are some horrible things that people do and say and have beliefs around each other, then we can look at those beliefs and then kind of challenge them. But if we act as if, just going back to act as if you're not aware, act as if this is not a problem. I'm not just looking at this. If we deny that there's an elephant right in front of us, there's no way that we'll take a bite. It's right.
Absolutely not.
There's no way that we'll kind of do it. We don't even have access. We don't have access to it because we choose not to see it.
Right.
And it is and I think it is at the point there was the show I can't remember what day it was, but we were talking about the pandemic and coronavirus and now with the protests and everything, and I don't know if I said it or if they said it, that you know the coronavirus paused us from our busyness, and then it, because we weren't as busy as we all said we were able to really see what was really working in the under, what this whole system is all about. Now, what we gonna do,
Absolutely.
right? If
Yes.
the reason why I think a lot of people weren't in the streets consistently all over the world last before, because the world wasn't stopped.
Exactly.
The world was
It
just
made
busy.
them
Oh,
pay attention.
right. This is what happens to black people in the in the street. This is, oh, okay, and that type of thing. Oh, it's sad, or we hate to see that happen, or what did they do? All that other kind of stuff that we say when we're busy and not really paying attention. When we are stopped, bored in the house, right? I watch. I try to stay off of TikTok because I believe TikTok just TikToks your life away, right? So,
Right.
but every once in a while, I'll hear we're bored in the house and we're in my house bored. I don't know if you've been on TikTok, but
Yeah.
but that's a song or something. So it just went through my head, and I was like, all right. But we were bored in the house, and we realized we were able to see what many of us been feeling and many of us have been living, but now more people can't say I'm too busy with my life not to see this.
Oh, that's what they're mad about the most. It's like,
Right.
what? How dare you bombard my senses with this non effective situation that is happening?
Right.
This doesn't affect me. Why should I
Right.
care?
Right.
You know, and I feel like a lot of people feel like that about everything that's happening, but oh, they're mad about that Confederate flag though.
Right. Yeah, and I try to stay. I don't want to say I try to stay. I don't pin labels against each other, right?
Right.
Because labels, the more that for me in my language, the more that we focus on the labels, we can't get to the people.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though people are, you know, really connected to their labels, their white label, their whatever label that our black label, which I call it African American label because it
Mm-hmm.
helps me. It helps me kind of connect to a heritage that, and frankly, was stolen from me. Right?
Right. Let's be
So
clear. We did not
right,
learn.
right. And so it is. And so what really challenges me really on every February. I'll just say that
Okay.
it just really challenges me that all of the things, all of the contributions of my people that were not told to me, but they
Mm-hmm.
only reserve for like February. And it's
Right.
like if we had a clear understanding throughout our lives and our years that how many contributions we have, how we have been a part of everything, right? Without
And
us, everything wouldn't be here, right?
America would not
Right,
be here
right. And it
at
was
all.
right. It basically it's our strength, but people make it not people, I'm sorry, labels. Sometimes even I switch up with my words. That will make it seem like if we admit that they're a part of everything, that label is a part of everything, it diminishes us and our role and our thing. And that's what happens for me when labels will only support or defend other labels. When people start really caring about people, then we can care about all people. But we have to get beyond our labels before that can happen. And like you said, there's some days that I feel that we can't get beyond them. We can't get beyond our labels because this is what we see. Labels aren't bad; it's what we make them mean.
Right,
And
because I
so,
was gonna say it makes not seeing color difficult or
right,
not seeing labels, as you said, as far as our skin not being a part of the label that we wear. But unfortunately, there has been this underlying history and understanding of Black people as being something that is inferior
right,
to the opposite. Like you said, one label defining another.
right,
Because with race and with class and race came discrimination and
right,
slavery.
right,
So, by those systems being in place and making making this dogma in a sense truth over the
right,
course of the history of our nation
right,
has been extremely toxic, and
right,
um, it's created a lot of misconceptions about the people around us. And I think that when we acknowledge that first,
right,
then we can get past the labels that we define ourselves as. And I don't feel that, the labels that we carry um, should be anything that hinders us. But like you said, we have to be able to live and see beyond them so that they don't confine us.
right. Absolutely. And I think it's that breaking out on that. And with no disrespect or kind of trying to change the conversation because too much that I feel the reason why we have the current conversation around race is because this conversation started years ago that people pushed off. And so
Mm-hmm.
people want to have another conversation. It's like, no, let's finish this conversation before we move on to something like
Right.
let's kind of deal with this. But my desire or my goal is for us to move into my life matters. And so
Mm-hmm.
the more that I get that for myself and you get that for you, how we show up for each other, that I will respect your life and I will respect my life. I will do things that will create an environment where everybody lives matter within that, and to recognize that it is an inside job. It is to see what is going on in my heart. How am I? What do I think of myself, and able to for me to show up for other people. And I think when we go into the Christian scriptures, says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And I've said many times, most of the reasons why how we show up for each other is there's a lot of people that don't love themselves. And so they can't love other people. We say words, I love you and all that other kind of stuff, but if it's not in us, if we don't really have an understanding of love, and truly loving ourselves and caring for ourselves, there is no care for other people, because
Right.
it is just, it's one of those things that's simple, but it's hard. So how do we look inward so we can be available to other people, and to everything that's around us, that everything that's available to us. I it's a, I don't say it's a hard thing, but it's not easy. And I think the work that we put in to really love ourselves on a level that only thing that people gets from me is love. And every situation that I show up, and all the things that are everything that's available to us, then is a reflection of my love. Then everything around me changes. How I see it, how I relate to it, how I connect to it. And so sometimes that sounds very Pollyanna, and it's like, kumbayas at the end of it.
Yeah, it can
But
sound a bit like that.
but but the only way that that's possible is by doing the inside work, but acknowledging what I see, and not denying what's right in my face and what I'm
Right.
aware of.
Right. A very powerful quote that I heard listening to, of course, a Super Soul Sunday with Oprah. One of her guests said that, real true love is being at your very best when someone is at their very worst.
Hmm.
And I
Wow.
think that that is so powerful because, like you said, it does take effort and it is hard. And I think that that is why it's important for people to see the protesters that are fighting for something greater than themselves and fighting for something that they believe in.
Right.
Because I feel that that takes courage, that takes being able to see and acknowledge everything around you and using the love that you have for your people, for yourself,
Right.
that permeates through you using your voice in a positive way to influence change.
Right. No, I totally get it. Yesterday on the conversation, it was on complete. And so I was like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, we're talking about complete. And one thing that came out of that, and it's a title of the show, is our complete journey. And the one thing that I am embracing, and within this conversation, is that there, within the completeness, everything is available. Everything happens. Um, anger, rage, breaking some shit, all of that happens within, the expression of my life. And I think too often, because I had a very difficult um, conversation with one of my children, about this time and how it was showing up for them, is that they feel like they can't fully express their feelings because, they might go to jail or they might get hurt or they all, and it's like none of us should feel that we can't express what we're feeling, what we love, or our emotions, because I believe, for within myself, anytime that I suppress my feelings or my thoughts or anything, it's like they collapse in on me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they don't like go away. It's
Right.
just like they're just like in there and they're just like just eating away at anything that I'm trying to do or want to do. So it's not like, I say that, there was a therapist that I had that said we either act things out or we talk things out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like now I would rather, and I think many of us would rather talk things out. And I think that's what in the conversation, but also not be afraid to act out. As a kid, that was kind of childish. You're acting out, type of thing. But sometimes, and especially in our society, for my opinion, that's all they see. That's all that gets their attention. Acting out gets your attention. Speaking out doesn't get their attention, but acting out does. And so, but maybe we have to act out to speak out. Maybe speak out to act out. I don't know, but the more that we kind of stay in our complete journey and basically look at everything that's available to us, and with all of our emotions and all of our thoughts and all of our desires and dreams, then we can live fully in that. And I think that's really what we're asking to do as human beings, as a people. I think you froze for a second, or I said nothing, right?
I was still, yeah.
Yeah, you're frozen. So, well,
Okay. I
okay, I
think we're
think you're back.
good.
You're good now. So I didn't know if you
Yes.
want to add anything to. I try not to do monologues or anything, but that
Oh,
just
no,
came out of
of
me.
course. Absolutely. I think that it's just important to be able to utilize your action in an effective way. I think that the action of burning and breaking and taking things, of course, no, I don't agree with the result of that, but at the same time I believe that, like you said, sometimes there is that rage, that frustration and that feeling of, okay, well, this is what's going to get your attention, because kneeling didn't get your attention, t-shirts didn't get your attention,
Right,
speaking out publicly in an eloquent and intelligent way did not get your attention. And so I believe that by, you know taking action in one way or another is going to
right,
get your attention. But I think that where our action needs to end, as it began with protests and the Black Lives Matter movement and the signs of I can't breathe and hands up, don't shoot, and George Floyd calling for his mother. We have to take all of those feelings, everything that we have felt during this time, and put it into our vote, put it
right,
into our education of the justice system and what's wrong with our systems, from the local level to the federal level to the
right,
state, even to the state level, because I feel that with the people that are representing us in the House, it is important for us to have people that hear us and that see us, because we are taking a good look at ourselves, and we
right,
need the people that are representing us to reflect what we see again in ourselves. We need those
right,
people to see us as much as we see ourselves, and they see the real that we need,
right,
in our society, as far as change, that reality of, okay, things need to be better. So,
right. Yeah, I think this is an ongoing conversation, and we can talk
absolutely.
hours for that. And I think the more that we're willing to stay within it, then everything is available to us. Um,
Right.
as we wrap up, is there any final thoughts? I mean, that was a good final thought, but is there anything that you got? Is there anything else that now has your attention because of this everything conversation?
I think seeing everything in a more bite at a time. I think that that's something. I think that I don't know why I've heard that proverb before, but it just I feel like it resonated with me today because sometimes I find myself overwhelmed by everything that's happening. But I think that by taking that one bite, that one step, that one action at a time, that's going to make a progressive change, a long lasting change. I think that process is the marathon that's going to get us to the finish line finally instead of just a quick race of bandaging things up and hoping that they'll get better and things
Right.
actually being better.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. This has been a wonderful first conversation with you, right?
Yes, an amazing first conversation.
Right. So we definitely would love for you to join me back on the show sometime and do that. There's going to be some changes to the show that I'm going to be announcing soon, but you're one of those returning people that I would love to explore. You know, something else, another word that maybe is hooking you or something that you want to just kind of talk through. But thank you very much. I'm going to put you in the green room for a moment, and we'll say our goodbyes from there, and I'll
All
end the
right.
show. Okay,
All right. Bye.
bye. Wow. Um, I think the one thing that I came present to, after this conversation is that there is a, a part of me that I that I wasn't aware of. That, and sometimes I become aware of it within African proverbs, and that's interesting for me because most of the times when I look for wisdom, when I look for things to kind of move me to my next place, I don't seek out African proverbs. But really, when they show up in my life, it's because they were there waiting for me. So, as we look at everything that's happening in our life, everything that's happening in our world, everything that's happening in our bodies and in our hearts, that we just take one step, take one thought, one action, so we can make a change in everything that's important to us. The world wants you, the world needs you, and the world is waiting for you. I am William Brown. Have a wonderful rest of your day.